The last thing Shen Yao remembered was a searing pain in her chest, the neon glow of a spreadsheet titled Q for _final V 3.xlsx, and a deep, profound sense of regret that she was dying while reading a trashy webnovel instead of doing anything meaningful. The novel was called The Pure CEO's Captive Heart, and its main villainess, a wealthy heiress named Zhu Linyu, was currently being driven to madness by a man whose personality resembled wet cardboard. Shen Yao had literally laughed herself to death at a chapter where Zhu Linyu threw a priceless Ming Dynasty vase at a maid because her fiancé hadn't texted her back. Then, the darkness swallowed her. When she opened her eyes, she wasn't in her cramped, rented studio apartment. She was staring at a silk-canopied ceiling large enough to park a Honda Civic under. She sat up, her joints entirely free of the chronic stiffness caused by 20-hour corporate shifts. A quick glance in a gold leaf mirror confirmed the worst, or rather, the most absurd. She was gorgeous. High cheekbones, dark, expressive eyes, and hair that looked like it had been spun by expensive Parisian spiders. She was Zhu Linyu. Oh, thank God, Shen Yao whispered, pulling the heavy duvet up to her chin. I don't have to do Excel sheets anymore. Her joy lasted exactly until she found the original Zhu Linyu's leather-bound diary on the nightstand. Flipping through it, the handwriting degenerated from neat calligraphy into frantic, ink-stained scratches. He didn't look at me at the gala. He looked at her. I bought 3 sports cars to impress him, but I'm maxing out my secret credit lines. My father's board members are looking at me like I'm a ghost. If I don't marry Lin Feng, the family assets will freeze. I have to ruin her. I have to. Shen Yao closed the book with a soft snap. Wow. She sounds exhausting. A slow, unhinged smile spread across her new face. If the entire world already hated Zhu Linyu, and if her reputation was already firmly established in the gutter, then there was absolutely no reason to try and be a proper lady. The pressure was off, the bar was on the floor. It was time to have some fun. Downstairs, the household staff stood in a rigid, terrified formation near the kitchen. Rumor had traveled fast. The young mistress was awake. Usually, this meant someone was getting fired, berated, or having a hot macchiato thrown at their chest. Old Lin, the head butler, adjusted his white gloves, preparing to face the storm. Suddenly, the kitchen doors swung open with a loud thud. It wasn't the sound of elegant, stomping high heels. It was the sound of bare feet slapping against the heated marble floors. Zhu Linyu marched past the line of frozen servants, wearing a silk robe completely askew, her hair a chaotic bird's nest. She didn't look angry. She looked like a woman on a desperate, holy mission. She bypassed the silver platters of poached eggs and organic avocado slices. Instead, she slid right past the terrified head chef, reached into the massive bamboo steamers, and grabbed 3 piping hot, oversized pork buns with her bare hands. Miss, the chef squeaked. Linyu didn't answer. She hoisted herself onto the pristine, imported white marble island, crossed her legs, and took a massive, unladylike bite out of a bun. Hot juice dripped onto the marble. She chewed happily, closing her eyes in sheer ecstasy. Oh man, she muttered around a mouthful of pork, actual food. Not vending machine coffee. This is a 5-star life. Old Lin stepped forward, his face pale. Miss Zhu, are you feeling well? Should I call for the family physician? Or perhaps the exorcist? Linyu waved a half-eaten bun at him dismissively. Relax, Lin. Sit down. Tell me your thoughts on the moon landing. Do you think it was faked, or do you think Kubrick shot it on a soundstage because the government was afraid of the space whales? I'm leaning toward space whales. The maids exchanged terrified glances. One of them began to quietly weep. I shall call the psychiatrist, Old Lin whispered to the under-butler, backing out of the room slowly so as not to startle her. Make sure she doesn't find the knives. Meanwhile, Linyu was having the greatest morning of her 2 lives. Later that afternoon, Linyu decided she needed sweatpants. The original villainess's wardrobe was a dystopian wasteland of corsets, towering heels, and dresses that required 3 people to zip up. There has to be a single pair of normal pants in this museum, she grumbled, tearing through the walk-in closet. As she shoved aside a row of identical fur coats, her foot caught on a loose floorboard. It clicked. A small, hidden compartment popped open. Inside wasn't jewelry or stolen gold. It was a sleek, completely unbranded, military-grade encrypted laptop and a cheap, plastic burner phone. Linyu blinked, sitting on the floor. She picked up the burner phone. The battery was low, but it was still functional. There was only one conversation thread from a masked number labeled X. The last text, sent 48 hours before Shen Yao woke up in this body, read, "The papers are ready. Sign the asset transfer for the shipping yards by Friday, or the public will find out you were the one who pushed the heroin down the stairs at the charity exhibition. You have 3 days to become a beggar, Miss Zhu." Lin Yu stared at the screen, a piece of a leftover pork bun still in her mouth. Wait a minute, she thought, her corporate-trained brain immediately detecting a massive anomaly. In the novel, Zhu Linyu definitely pushed the heroin because she was jealous. But if she did it out of pure malice, why is someone using it to extort her entire family's shipping empire? Did she actually push her, or was she just a very convenient, very loud idiot who walked into a trap? The grand ballroom of the Grand Hyatt was suffocatingly opulent. It was the night of the formal engagement announcement between the Zhu family and the Lin family. Or rather, it was supposed to be. Shen Yao, now firmly residing in Zhu Linyu's skin, stood near the chocolate fountain, wearing a stunning emerald gown that she had chosen solely because it had pockets. She had stuffed those pockets full of gourmet smoked salmon canapes. The air in the room grew thick as Lin Feng, the handsome but deeply arrogant young master of the Lin Corporation, stepped onto the central stage. Beside him stood Bai Weiwei, the heroine, looking like a fragile, tearful angel in white chiffon. "Everyone, please look this way," Lin Feng announced into the microphone, his voice dripping with righteous indignation. He pointed a finger directly at Lin Yu. "Tonight, I publicly dissolve my engagement to Zhu Linyu. Her cruelty, her constant harassment of Weiwei, and her toxic malice have proven she is unfit to ever bear the Lin name." The ballroom erupted into gasps, whispers spread like wildfire. "Finally, he's dumping her. Look at her, she must be devastated. She's going to scream, just watch." Everyone braced for the inevitable explosion. Lin Feng puffed out his chest, waiting for Lin Yu to rush the stage, cry, and make a fool of herself so he could have her dragged out by security. Instead, Lin Yu swallowed her canape, wiped her fingers on a napkin, and began to clap, 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 clap. It wasn't a sarcastic slow clap. It was a genuine, enthusiastic, "Good job, buddy" round of applause. "Wonderful!" Lin Yu shouted across the silent ballroom, her voice echoing clearly. "Absolutely fantastic. You've saved me so much paperwork. Do you know how hard it is to get out of a high society marriage contract? The legal fees alone are a nightmare." Lin Feng froze, his jaw dropping. What did you say?" Lin Yu strolled casually toward the stage, her hands casually resting in her pockets. She reached into her left pocket, pulled out a small, glossy piece of paper, and extended it up to him. "Here," she said brightly, "a token of my appreciation." Lin Feng automatically took the paper, staring at it. It was a printed, laminated voucher. At the top, in bold Comic Sans font, it read, "Coupon for 1 free psychological evaluation and therapy session." At the bottom, she had handwritten, "I think it'll help with the anger issues, sweetie." XO. "You," Lin Feng's face turned a violent shade of purple. "You insane woman. Are you mocking me?" "I'm being supportive," Lin Yu said, patting his shiny leather shoe since he was up on the stage. "Anyway, enjoy your cardboard angel. I'm going to go find some fried chicken. This party has no carbs and it's making me depressed." She turned on her heel and sauntered out of the ballroom, leaving a paralyzed aristocracy in her wake. 10 minutes later, Lin Yu was wandering the back corridors of the hotel, trying to find the exit that led to the nearest Korean fried chicken joint. She still had a pocketful of salmon, but she wanted grease. As she passed a secluded, dimly lit VIP meeting room, she heard low, tense voices. "Is it done?" Lin Yu stopped. That was the voice of Bai Weiwei's father, the supposedly gentle and philanthropic director Bai. "Yes," a rough, unfamiliar voice replied. Lin Feng completely took the bait. He publicly broke the ties between the families, now that Zhu Linyu is entirely disgraced and isolated. Her father's shipping company is completely unprotected. The board will panic tomorrow morning. "Good," Director Bai hissed. "Tell the dock master to move the tainted cargo to dock for under the cover of the media storm. If the police intercept it now, it'll be blamed entirely on the Zhu family's negligence. The original girl's signature is already on the shipping manifests anyway." Lin Yu stood in the shadows, slowly chewing on a stray piece of salmon she found in her pocket. "Tainted cargo? Dock for forged signatures." She pulled out her phone and opened her notes app, typing it down, Doc 4, Tainted Cargo. Director by is a shady bald man, by Chicken First, investigate later. The plot of this web novel wasn't just trashy romance, it was a massive, high-stakes corporate setup, and the original Zhu Linyu had been the perfect loudmouth target to take the fall for it. 3 days after the banquet, the elite social circle was still reeling. To prove she wasn't bothered, or more accurately, because she heard there was an unrestricted luxury seafood buffet, Linyu attended the annual Autumn Elegance Gala. She wore a breathtaking, pristine white designer gown. She looked like a goddess of purity, which was hilarious because she spent the first 45 minutes hiding behind a fake palm tree, eating lobster claws she had smuggled in a cloth napkin. Well, look what crawled out of the social gutter. Linyu looked up. Standing there was Han Sunhee, a notoriously vicious heiress who had been best friends with the heroine, by Wei. Sunhee was holding a full glass of deep, staining Cabernet Sauvignon. Miss Zhu, Sunhee sneered, a cruel glint in her eye. I'm surprised you have the nerve to show your face after being dumped so pitifully. The lobster is good, Linyu offered, holding up a half-eaten claw. Want one? Sunhee's face contorted in disgust. You disgusting. She feigned a trip, tilting her hand with practiced precision. Oh, oops. The dark red wine splashed in a perfect arc, soaking the front of Linyu's immaculate white dress. The deep red stain spread instantly across her chest and torso. The surrounding chatter in the gala dropped to an absolute dead silence. Dozens of eyes turned to watch the impending nuclear meltdown. Sunhee smirked, waiting for the screams, the hair-pulling, the typical Zhu Linyu rage. Linyu slowly looked down at her dress. Then, she slowly looked back up, staring directly into Sunhee's heavily contoured face. She didn't look angry, she looked deeply, profoundly fascinated. Wow, Linyu whispered, her voice carrying across the quiet room. You're surprisingly ugly. Sunhee froze, her smirk shattered. What? No, seriously, Linyu said, leaning in closer, inspecting Sunhee's face like a scientist examining a strange bug. When you walked up, I thought maybe the lighting was bad. Or maybe the red wine was affecting my vision, but looking at you up close? No, it's just your face, it's a tragedy. Really, you, how dare you? My face is worth millions in plastic surgery, Sunhee shrieked. Linyu gently patted Sunhee's trembling shoulder, leaving a faint smudge of lobster grease on her designer jacket. The dress can be dry cleaned, Linyu said with a soft, sympathetic sigh. But that personality, oof, no amount of bleach is saving that. Have a blessed evening. Generic villain number 3, she turned and walked away, her stained red and white dress trailing behind her like a battle cape. Within 3 hours, a video captured by a bystander hit the internet. The comedic payoff was instantaneous. The sheer, unbothered, lethal calm of Zhu Linyu's insult struck a chord with a public tired of fake high society politeness. By midnight, #Ray surprisingly ugly was trending nationwide at number 1. Meme pages were born overnight. But while the internet laughed, Linyu was sitting in her bedroom, looking at her phone. A notification popped up from a burner account on an online forum. The user, a tech-savvy netizen with the handle @bitesized, had sent her a direct message with a zoomed-in, slowed-down clip of the viral video. @bitesized. Hey Miss Zhu, everyone is laughing at the ugly girl, but look at the background at timestamp 114. When you walked away, that guy in the waiter's uniform didn't look at you, he explicitly targeted your discarded purse on the chair. A notification popped up from a burner account on an online forum. The user, a tech-savvy netizen with the handle @bitesized, had sent her a direct message with a zoomed-in, slowed-down clip of the viral video. @bitesized. Hey Miss Zhu, everyone is laughing at the ugly girl, but look at the background at timestamp 114. When you walked away, that guy in the waiter's uniform didn't look at you, he explicitly targeted your discarded purse on the chair. Linyu squinted at the video. Sure enough, in the chaos of her insult, a man in a catering uniform had swiftly zipped open her purse, dropped something inside, and vanished into the crowd. Linyu jumped up and ran to the closet where she had thrown her ruined dress and purse. She dumped the contents of the bag onto her bed, out-rolled her lipstick, her compact, a few loose canapes she'd forgotten about, and a heavy, titanium-cased encrypted flash drive. She plugged it into the laptop she had found in Chapter 1. The screen flared to life, bypassing the initial security layers through a pre-installed backdoor on the drive. Files began to pop up. They were internal, highly classified financial audits of the Zhu family enterprise dating back exactly 3 years, the precise year her father's company began to lose control of its shipping yards to the Lin and by families. Attached to the audits was a text file with a single note. They think you're the scapegoat, Lin Yu. They don't know your father kept a double set of books. Find Doc for before they clean it out. Lin Yu leaned back against her pillows, a slow grin spreading across her face. Well, look at that, she chuckled. The plot thickens, and I haven't even finished my leftover fried chicken yet. In the obsidian and glass monolith of the Gu Corporation headquarters, the air was perpetually set to a crisp 62 degrees. It matched the temperament of its CEO, Gu Ming's, a man so terrifyingly unapproachable that the board of directors routinely took beta blockers before weekly meetings. He was a corporate machine. He did not smile. He did not rest. And he certainly did not engage in high society gossip. Until today. His executive assistant, Assistant Wang, stood trembling by the mahogany desk as a bizarre sound echoed through the office. It was a low, rumbling chuckle that quickly escalated into an actual, genuine laugh. Wang froze. He checked his watch. He checked the thermostat. Is the oxygen line leaking? Is he having a stroke? On Mingzi's tablet, the viral video of the Autumn Elegance Gala was playing for the 14th time on screen. A red wine-soaked Zhu Linyu was squinting at Han Sunhee's face like a disappointed art critic. No, it's just your face, it's a tragedy. Really, sir, Wang squeaked. Should I have the video taken down for violating high society decorum? Leave it, Mings murmured, wiping a genuine tear of amusement from his eye. His sharp, handsome features relaxed into a smirk. For 3 years, these families have acted like untouchable deities. And she just dismantled one of them while holding a lobster claw. Find out where she is right now. 40 minutes later, the most powerful CEO in the country was stepping into a dimly lit 24-hour convenience store on the edge of the commercial district. He found Zhu Linyu standing in the aisle, wearing an oversized gray hoodie, sweatpants, and fuzzy slippers. She was staring intensely at a plastic wet floor sign, then looking up at the sleepy cashier. Excuse me, Linyu said to the teenager behind the counter. What's the legal protocol for purchasing municipal property? Like, if I want to buy a stop sign or a deer crossing sign, do I pay the city, or do I just bring a wrench at 3:00 a.m.? I feel like the deer aren't using their signs anyway. The cashier blinked, entirely dead inside. Ma'am, I just sell cigarettes. Mings stepped into the aisle, his towering 6'2" inches frame throwing a long, intimidating shadow over her. He folded his arms, letting his tailored Tom Ford suit do the talking. Miss Zhu, I didn't expect to find the nation's most talked about heiress planning a heist on public infrastructure. Linyu looked up, completely unfazed by his terrifying aura. She blinked at his face, then looked down at her hands, which were currently holding a massive plastic basket overflowing with instant ramen, 3 gallons of milk, and 5 jars of spicy pickled garlic. Oh, thank God, Linyu said, entirely ignoring his comment. She shoved the heavy basket directly into his pristine, custom-tailored chest. Hold this, Kevin. My wrists are killing me. Mingzi's brain short-circuited. His arms reflexively caught the basket. The cold billionaire of the Gu family was suddenly holding 3 gallons of milk and a mountain of garlic in a corner store. My name is not Kevin, he said, his voice dropping into a dangerous, icy register. Do you have any idea who I am? Look, Kevin, I don't care about your corporate hierarchy, Linyu said, dragging a heavy bag of cat food toward the counter, even though she didn't own a cat. I'm having a rough night. I tried to go down to the docks to get some fresh sea air, but dock for smells like industrial bleach and burning hair. It completely ruined my appetite. I had to come here for emergency sodium. Mingzi's dark eyes narrowed to slits, the irritation melted away, replaced by a sharp, calculating focus. Dock 4, the public thought the Zhu family shipping yards were completely abandoned. A defunct asset waiting for liquidation, but as the head of the city's largest logistics empire, Mings kept a close eye on infrastructure. He knew for a fact that Dock 4 was legally offline. Yet, just yesterday, his tech teams had flagged a massive, anomalous spike in the local power grid originating from that exact sector, enough electricity to run a small manufacturing plant, masked under the guise of maintenance. He looked at Linyu, who was currently trying to convince the cashier to accept a half-eaten smoked salmon canape as a tip. Is she a brilliant detective playing dumb, Mings wondered, or is she genuinely just wandering into the center of a corporate conspiracy while looking for snacks? Kevin Are you paying for this or what? Lin Yu asked, tapping her foot. Mings pulled out his black card, a faint, dangerous smile returning to his face. I'll pay. On one condition, Miss Zhu. If it involves Excel sheets, I'd rather go to jail, she warned. By the end of the week, the internet had officially decided that the new, unhinged Zhu Linyu was the best thing to happen to the media landscape in a decade. A group of tech-savvy netizens created a dedicated tracking page on social media called @LinyuFan. Within 48 hours. The page had 3 million followers. The daily posts were pure, unadulterated chaos. At LinyuFan, Miss Zhu was seen today at the Central Park arguing aggressively with a pigeon over a piece of sourdough bread. Update: the pigeon flapped away. Winner unclear, but Miss Zhu is currently eating the bread. At LinyuFan, Miss Zhu attended a luxury jewelry auction. When asked if she wanted to bid on a $4 million diamond necklace, she asked if it could be melted down into a solid silver frying pan because her eggs keep sticking. The auctioneer has retired. The internet loved it, but the high society elites were growing increasingly paranoid. They were convinced that her public erratic behavior was a hyper-calculated facade designed to hide a brilliant Under offensive strategy, this paranoia reached a boiling point during Theory 38. A viral thread on the forum analyzed Lin Yu's latest real estate venture. Over the weekend, she had suddenly purchased an entire, rundown block of 20 tenement apartments in the city's poorest district. Look at the layout, one netizen theorized. Those 20 apartments perfectly surround the headquarters of the Lin Corporation's subsidiary. Miss Zhu is clearly establishing a surveillance perimeter to expose their corrupt housing syndicate. She's a tactical genius. Zhu Linyu, who is currently eating cereal out of a mixing bowl in her mansion, saw the trending thread and immediately typed a public reply from her verified account. Zhu Linyu official, no. I kept forgetting which floor my cousin lived on, and the elevator button was sticky. So now I own the whole vertical stack. I don't know what a housing syndicate is, but if they want to fix the elevator, they can call my butler. The internet went wild. Look at her psychological warfare. She's denying it to keep the Lin family off balance. Queen Linyu truly didn't care about the theory. But reality had a funny way of aligning with her chaos. 2 hours after her public post, the Metropolitan Police launched a massive, unannounced tactical raid on the basement of the third apartment building she had just purchased. As it turned out, Lin Yu's arbitrary purchase of the entire vertical stack had legally transferred ownership of the building's maintenance tunnels. The building's previous owner, a shell company directly tied to the Bai and Lin families, had been using the secure basement to run a massive, illicit server farm dedicated to laundering money and fabricating the fake debt records that had destroyed the Zhu family 3 years ago. When Lin Yu's lawyers had demanded the keys to the property, the panicked shell company tried to destroy the hard drives. The resulting smoke triggered the fire alarms, which brought the police, who discovered millions in untraceable offshore accounts. The media immediately ran the headlines. Zhu Linyu's genius real estate play destroys corrupt laundering ring. Sitting in his office, Gu Mings watched the news broadcast. He looked at his assistant. Did she plan this? Assistant Wang sweated profusely. Sir, our intelligence says she spent the entire day trying to teach an alpaca how to do the moonwalk on her front lawn. Mings leaned back, laughing softly. Incredible. Secure the remaining assets in that district before the Lin family can burn them. With her reputation shifting from vicious villainess to omniscient chaotic savior, Lin Yu's social media inbox became a digital confessional. Thousands of people began flooding her comments, treating her like a modern-day unhinged oracle of Delphi. She opened her phone during a bubble tea break and decided to clear out some notifications by giving the most blunt, low-effort advice humanly possible. User _9921 Miss Zhu, my boyfriend of 4 years just cheated on me with my roommate. What should I do? I'm heartbroken. Zhu Linyu official, return him to the factory. He's clearly defective. Also, change the locks and throw your roommate's mattress out the window. If it hits her, it's fate. Move on, anxious grad. How do I become confident like you? I'm terrified of what people think of me. Zhu Linyu official, stop assuming strangers are thinking about you at all. They aren't. They're way too busy wondering if they look stupid or if they left their stove on. Everyone is just a panicked toddler in a trench coat. Go eat a potato. The comment section exploded. A panicked toddler in a trench coat. Oh my god, this is profound. She's tearing down the construct of social anxiety. the potato comment is a metaphor for grounding oneself. She's a philosopher. Lin Yu threw her phone onto the sofa. I literally just want them to stop messaging me. She groaned to her butler. Why are they treating me like Gandhi, amidst the millions of generic messages? A highly encrypted direct ping slipped into her business inbox. The username was a string of random numbers, but the message was structured with corporate precision. Anonymous whistleblower. Miss Zhu, I'm using this public forum because they track my official emails. I work in the financial department of your father's former shipping enterprise. My current boss is cheating on his wife with the chief accountant. Together, they have been writing off fake losses on the company ledgers explicitly to frame a former executive's daughter for embezzlement. They're going to finalize the frame-up next week. What is your tactical advice? Lin Yu, who was thoroughly annoyed by the length of the message, didn't realize the former executive's daughter was her. She just thought it sounded like a terrible soap opera. She aggressively typed back, "This sounds like a lot of reading. If I were you, I'd steal their corrupt tax documents, put them in a brightly colored folder, and leave them on a public bench in front of the municipal courthouse. It builds character. And it forces someone else to do the paperwork. Leave me alone, I'm trying to nap." The whistleblower stared at the screen across town, their eyes widening in awe. Leave it on a public bench. It's brilliant. It bypasses internal police corruption by making it a public discovery. Miss Zhu is a strategic mastermind. 2 days later, a bright neon pink folder containing 40 pages of internal tax fraud documents from the Lin Bai Alliance was found by a passing beat cop on the steps of the High Court. The investigation into the Zhu family's alleged crimes was officially halted by the federal prosecutor, and a grand jury was quietly formed. Lin Yu woke up from her nap, completely unaware that her desire to avoid reading had just shattered the enemy's legal strategy. The entertainment industry was a playground for the wealthy, but director Wang took it to a sadistic level. A viral audio clip had leaked online showing the multi-award-winning director violently berating a young wardrobe assistant, throwing a steaming cup of coffee at her feet, and screaming, "You are nobody. You wash the floors of my studio, and I determine if you get to breathe in this industry." The internet was outraged, but high society looked the other way because Wang's films brought in billions. Zhu Linyu, however, was currently sitting in her living room eating Fruit Loops out of a plastic bucket when she saw the video. She stared at the screen, her corporate bred soul flashing back to every toxic manager who had ever made her cry in a bathroom stall. "Oh, absolutely not," Lin Yu muttered, slamming her spoon down. "Old Lan, get the checkbook. We're buying a movie studio." By noon the next day, Lin Yu had transferred $40 million to the struggling production house's parent company, effectively becoming the majority shareholder. By 1 p.m., she rolled up to the studio lot in a golf cart, wearing a neon green tracksuit and sunglasses. Director Wang was in the middle of a high-pressure shoot, screaming at a lighting technician when Lin Yu cut the power grid to the entire stage. "Who the hell did that?" Wang roared, stomping toward the main entrance. Lin Yu stepped out of the golf cart, chewing a piece of bubble gum. "I did. Wang, pack up your megaphone, you're fired." Wang laughed in her face. "Fired? By who?" "The disgraced Miss Zhu." "You don't have the authority." Lin Yu's lawyer calmly stepped out from behind a grip truck and handed him a notarized acquisition document. Lin Yu smiled, leaning on her golf cart. "I own the bricks you're standing on, buddy. But because I believe in restorative justice, I'm not throwing you out on the street. I'm rehiring you." She gestured to an elderly woman standing in the back, holding a mop, the very same cleaning lady Wang had mocked on camera for years. "This is Auntie Chen," Lin Yu announced brightly to the entire cast and crew. "She is your new executive producer and direct supervisor, and you, Wang, are our new head of sanitary operations. If you believed cleaning was beneath you, it's time to become excellent at it. Here's your plunger." The studio erupted into cheers. By evening, the story was a national sensation, prompting fierce academic debates online about whether Lin Yu truly understood the philosophical framework of restorative justice. 2 days into his new job, a deeply humiliated Wang was violently scrubbing the urinals in the executive bathroom, swearing under his breath. Hearing footsteps, he panicked, dropped his mop, and sprinted out the back door to avoid being seen by the crew. In his haste, he left his expensive, gold-plated smartphone sitting on the edge of the marble sink. Lin Yu, who had only entered the bathroom because she was looking for a good place to hide from her butler and play mobile games, spotted the phone. It was buzzing aggressively. The lock screen was disabled due to a grease smudge over the passcode sensor. Curious, Lin Yu tapped the screen. A group chat popped up titled The Apex Circle, and the members included Lin Feng, her ex-fiancé and director Bai. She scrolled back through the chat history, her jaw slowly tightening. Lin Feng, the audit trails are clean. We successfully forged Zhu Linyu's signature on the $50 million bank fraud loan. The offshore shell companies in the Caymans match her personal accounts perfectly. Once the court prosecutes her, she'll take the fall for the entire shipping yard's collapse. Director Bai, make sure she stays unstable in the media. If she looks crazy, no jury will believe her when she claims identity theft. She'll die in a cell before she ever realizes we drained her father's assets. Lin Yu stared at the screen, the bubble gum in her mouth losing its flavor. The original Zhu Linyu hadn't been a criminal at all. She had been targeted precisely because her toxic public reputation made her the perfect, unvouchable scapegoat. You guys really chose the wrong woman to mess with, Lin Yu whispered, taking a screenshot of the chat and forwarding it to her burner email. Gu Ming's, Lin Yu said, bursting into the billionaire's office without knocking. Completely bypassing a line of foreign dignitaries, I need you to buy me an abandoned textile factory. Mings, who was in the middle of signing a multi-billion-dollar trade agreement, didn't even blink. He waved his hand dismissively to his assistant. Buy it. Which one? The old industrial complex on the north side, Lin Yu said, pulling up a chair and stealing a high-end fountain pen from his desk to click it repeatedly. I saw it in a late-night paranormal forum. The users say it's haunted by a Victorian child who throws spools of thread at people. It looks exactly like a Scooby-Doo villain lives there. I want to build an escape room. Or maybe just go there and yell at the walls. Assistant Wang looked at his boss, waiting for the cold rejection. Instead, Ming signed a document, closed his ledger, and stood up, adjusting his tie. Let's go inspect it then, sir. Assistant Wang gasped. You have a board meeting in 10 minutes. Reschedule it, Ming said smoothly, grabbing his coat. Miss Zhu wants to hunt ghosts. An hour later, their luxury convoy pulled up to a decaying, rusted brick complex surrounded by overgrown weeds. Lin Yu marched ahead, holding a plastic flashlight she bought at a gas station. Mings followed behind her, his expensive Italian leather shoes crunching through shattered glass. They pushed past a set of heavy, rusted iron doors into the depths of the basement. Lin Yu was eagerly looking for glowing ectoplasm, but as they rounded a dark corner into a reinforced utility room, her flashlight beam illuminated something entirely unexpected. 3 men in tattered corporate suits were sitting on cots, blinking frantically against the sudden light. They were surrounded by empty water bottles and canned rations. Lin Yu stopped, lowering her flashlight. Huh? You guys don't look like Victorian children. Mings instantly stepped in front of her, his hand moving to his inner jacket pocket where his security detail's comms were wired. His eyes sharpened. Who are you? One of the men, an older gentleman with broken glasses, fell to his knees. Please, don't kill us. We won't say anything about the shipping ledgers. Wait, Ming said, his voice dropping into a deep, authoritative command. Are you Zhao Sun and Liu? The forensic accountants from the Federal Audit Bureau who went missing a year ago? Yes. The man sobbed. The Bai family had us kidnapped because we refused to approve the fraudulent debt restructuring files for the Zhu shipping yards. They've kept us hidden here until the final asset liquidation is completed. Lin Yu scratched her head, completely bewildered. Wait, so you're telling me you guys have been sleeping in my haunted house this whole time? Is there even a ghost here? Or did you guys just make those noises to keep people away? We banged on the pipes when we heard teenagers outside, the accountant confessed. Mings pulled out his phone, his face carved from ice as he looked at Lin Yu. The net is closing. They didn't just frame your family, Lin Yu, they're running a black site kidnapping operation. He spoke into his receiver. Wang, call the FBI director, tell him we found the audit missing pieces, bring the extraction team. Lin Yu leaned against a rusted pillar, sighing deeply. Man, every time I try to do something fun and unhinged, a federal crime just ruins the vibe. The fallout from the factory raid was being handled with absolute secrecy by the federal government, but high society knew something massive had gone wrong. The Lin and Bai families were in a state of absolute blind panic. They couldn't understand how Zhu Linyu kept stumbling into their highly classified operations. To make matters worse, at Linyu fan dropped theory #61. Lin Yu had recently spent a ridiculous amount of money importing 6 premium fluffy alpacas and placing them on the front lawn of her suburban estate, netizens immediately began decoding the purchase with manic intensity. At Linufan, think about it. Alpaca in International Banking Code can stand for the Asset Liquidation and Private Accounts Clearance Act. She bought exactly 6 alpacas. There are exactly 6 major offshore shell companies used by the Linbai Alliance. Miss Zhou is letting them know she knows about their Cayman accounts. This is a cold-blooded psychological execution. The viral theory sent shockwaves through the corporate elite. A prominent financial talk show host even analyzed the alpaca's grooming patterns on live television, wondering if the shaved patches on their left legs symbolized a market short-selling strategy. A reporter caught up with Lin Yu as she was leaving a bakery, asking point-blank, "Miss Zhou, does the presence of the alpacas symbolize a warning of imminent market instability for your competitors?" Lin Yu stopped, chewing on a cinnamon roll, looking entirely exhausted by the human race. "No," she said deadpan into the camera. "They just looked unemployed. I saw them on a farm. They were just standing around doing nothing. So I gave them a job guarding my lawn from the mailman. Please stop overthinking my life. They are literally just grass-munching idiots." The internet's response: "Look at her poker face. She's keeping the target families in a state of terror by downplaying her hand." Absolute legend. Lin Yu's explanation was completely honest. But the corrupt families didn't buy it, convinced that the alpaca threat meant she was about to leak their offshore routing numbers to the central bank. Director Bai panicked. She knows about the Caymans. Bai screamed over an encrypted line to Lin Feng's father. "Move the remaining $120 million out of the offshore accounts right now. Liquidate everything and channel it through the Zurich Swiss accounts before she freezes them." But transferring $120 million across international lines in a single afternoon requires bypassing standard security protocols by moving the money with such frantic, uncoordinated haste. The corrupt families bypassed their own automated laundering algorithms. The massive, sudden wire transfer immediately triggered red flags at the Central Banking Authority. In his high-floor suite, Gu Ming smiled as his monitors lit up with the transaction logs, because he had already provided the FBI with the rescued accountant's testimonies. The government had granted him temporary emergency receivership over the disputed shipping assets. "They bit the bait," Mings murmured, tapping a key on his keyboard. Using the Gu Group's global liquidity network, execute a structural asset freeze on all outbound transfers from the Linbai shell corporations. Trap their capital in transit. Assistant Wang ran into the room, holding a tablet. "Sir, we've successfully locked their entire liquid net worth in the federal holding system. They are completely bankrupt on paper until the trial concludes." Mings leaned back, looking out the window toward Lin Yu's estate in the distance, where an alpaca was currently chasing a terrified security guard. "Incredible," the billionaire laughed softly. "They destroyed themselves out of sheer terror of a fluffy farm animal." 11 months had passed since Shen Yao woke up in the body of high society's most hated woman. In that time, she had dismantled 3 corporate shell companies, accidentally rescued federal witnesses, and normalized eating snacks out of oversized mixing bowls. She had also spent nearly every single day with Gu Mings. Tonight was no different. They were sitting cross-legged on the asphalt of the Gu Corporation's private skyscraper helipad, the glittering city skyline sprawling out beneath them. The wind was whipping their hair around, but Lin Yu didn't care. She was focused on a styrofoam cup of extra spicy instant noodles. Mings, dressed in a $10,000 charcoal suit, was calmly eating the exact same cheap noodles with silver chopsticks. Lin Yu took a massive slurping bite, stared out at the flashing red light of a distant radio tower, and said, "You know, Kevin, I've been reading up on local wildlife. I think geese hold grudges. Like deep ancestral blood feuds." "They do," Mings replied without missing a beat, his tone entirely serious. "A goose once targeted my father's CFO in 2018. The man had to relocate to Singapore." Silence descended over the helipad, save for the whistling wind and the sound of chewing. Mings set his cup down, wiped his mouth elegantly with a silk handkerchief and looked at her. "So I was looking at the corporate calendar. Should we get married in the spring or the summer? Spring has better weather, but summer works better for the asset integration." Lin Yu didn't answer, mainly because she had just violently inhaled a spicy noodle directly into her windpipe. She erupted into a massive coughing fit, beating her chest, her face turning a bright, unglamorous red. Mings smoothly leaned over, patting her back with practiced ease, handing her a bottle of premium imported water. "Don't panic," he said softly. "We can do autumn if you prefer the foliage." Linyu finally cleared her throat, gasping for air, her eyes wide with unadulterated horror. "Married spring." "Kevin, what are you talking about?" Mings blinked, his perfectly composed expression faltering just a fraction. "Our wedding? I assume 11 months is a reasonable timeline for a formal engagement." Linyu stared at him like he had just grown a second head. "Engagement? Kevin, we aren't even dating." The city's most terrifying billionaire froze. He stared at her, his eyes deadpan. "Linyu, we have spent every weekend together for nearly a year. I bought you an entire international bubble tea franchise 3 months ago. I thought you were just a really generous friend," Linyu shouted, throwing her hands up. "Rich people do crazy things. I thought you just really valued our camaraderie." "I introduced you to my mother," Ming said, his voice rising in disbelief. "I explicitly said, 'Mother, this is Linyu, my girlfriend.' I thought it was a bit." Linyu yelled back, "You hate high society matchmakers. I thought we were running a long-term psychological prank on your family." "I was fully committed to the bit." "Linyu, I hold your hand when we walk through the financial district." "You said my hands looked cold." "It was a circulatory wellness check." "I kiss you on the cheek every time I drop you off." "Kevin, I thought rich people just greeted each other like that, like the French. I was trying to be culturally adaptive." Ming stared at her. The silence stretched for 5 seconds. Then the terrifying, unapproachable king of the financial world threw his head back and began to laugh. It wasn't his usual quiet chuckle. It was a loud, echoing, chest-deep roar of pure, unbridled amusement. He laughed so hard he had to lean against the helipad railing, tears gathering in the corners of his eyes. 11 months, he wheezed, shaking his head. "I've been conducting a textbook high society courtship, and you thought I was just committed to a bit." Linyu sat back down on the asphalt, pouting, her face burning. "In my defense, you always paid. I thought you were just an aggressively supportive bro." As Mings finally caught his breath, the heavy encrypted smartphone in his jacket pocket buzzed with a specific, high-priority ringtone. The laughter evaporated from his face, replaced instantly by the razor-sharp focus of a predator. "Speak," Ming said. Answering the call, his lead private investigator's voice came through the speaker, crisp and grim. "Sir, we finally cracked the secondary encryption on the burner phone Miss Zhu found in her closet. We recovered the deleted audio files and personal logs from the original Zhu Linyu." Ming switched the phone to speaker so Linyu could hear. The audio file played. The voice that came through was trembling, frantic, and entirely devoid of the arrogance the media had always attributed to her. "They're using the shipping yards. It's not just financial fraud. The Lin family. They're moving container ships under the cover of darkness. Human trafficking. Underage laborers from the overseas territories. I saw the manifests. When I confronted Lin Feng, he laughed at me. He said no one would ever believe a spoiled brat like me. They're putting something in my drinks. I feel dizzy all the time. My reputation, their leaks to the press every day, making me look insane. If anything happens to me, please, someone look at Doc 4. The audio cut off with the sound of a shattering glass. Linyu sat perfectly still on the helipad, the leftover noodles growing cold. The original Zhu Linyu wasn't an exhausting, spoiled villainess who ran herself into a prison cell out of malice. She had stumbled upon a horrific, monstrous truth about the elite alliance. To protect themselves, they had systematically drugged her, weaponized her existing insecurities, ruined her public credibility, and framed her so flawlessly that she died believing she truly deserved her fate. Mings looked down at Linyu, his eyes burning with a dark, lethal fire. "They didn't just steal your family's company, Linyu. They systematically murdered a girl who tried to save people." Linyu slowly stood up, brushing the dirt off her sweatpants. The chaotic, playful energy in her eyes shifted into something cold, steady, and terrifyingly sharp, the look of a corporate project manager who had just found a critical error in the system. "Well," Linyu whispered, her voice dead quiet. "Now it's personal." The municipal cemetery on the edge of the city was gray, damp, and blanketed in a heavy autumn mist. Far away from the grand, marble mausoleums of the wealthy elite sat a small, neglected plot of land. The headstone was cheap limestone, already gathering moss, bearing a name that the world had chosen to forget or spit upon: Zhu Linyu. A pair of fuzzy, neon-pink slippers stepped through the wet grass, stopping directly in front of the grave. Linyu stood there, wearing her favorite oversized hoodie. She reached into her pockets not to pull out a pristine bouquet of white lilies, but a slightly squished plastic container from her mansion's kitchen. She knelt in the damp dirt and placed the container on the mossy stone. Inside were 3 cold, stolen pork buns. "Hey," Linyu said softly, staring at the carved letters of her own new name. "Brought you breakfast. The chef still makes them too salty, but they're good." The wind rustled the dead leaves around the plot, the chaotic, unhinged internet celebrity was entirely gone, replaced by the quiet, grounded soul of Shen Yao. "I read your diary," she whispered, her fingers lightly tracing the edge of the cheap headstone, "and I heard the recording. I need to apologize to you. When I first got here, I thought you were just an exhausting, dramatic girl who didn't know how to handle her life. I was wrong." She paused, swallowing the lump in her throat. "You weren't exhausting at all. You were just 22 years old, completely terrified and entirely alone in a room full of monsters. They broke you. And then they made the world laugh at your funeral." Linyu stood up, pulling the hoodie tight around herself. A faint, sharp smile returned to her lips, though her eyes remained fiercely focused. "I'm going to clear your name. Every single person who put you in this dirt is going to lose everything they own. The internet already thinks I'm a tactical genius, so I might as well live up to the hype. But fair warning, I'm still going to be incredibly weird while I do it. I'm currently tracking a goose that I think is a corporate spy, so stay tuned." A shadow fell over her, blocking out the drizzling rain. Linyu looked up. Gu Ming's was standing right beside her, holding a massive black umbrella over her head, completely ignoring the mud staining his bespoke leather shoes. He didn't ask why she brought meat buns to a grave. He didn't ask about the goose. He simply adjusted the umbrella to ensure not a single drop of rain touched her shoulders. "The federal warrants have been signed," Ming said quietly, his voice a steady anchor in the gray mist. "The grand jury is fully briefed on the human trafficking manifests we recovered from the burner phone. The Lin and Bai families have no exit strategy left." Linyu looked at him, then down at his hand holding the umbrella. "Kevin." "Yes, Linyu. Are we actually dating now? Like for real, no bits?" Mings looked down at his beautiful, unhinged queen, a rare, breathtakingly soft smile gracing his features. "If you'll have me, Miss Zhu, I'll even carry your grocery bags for the rest of my life." Linyu snorted, slipping her arm through his. "Fine, but you're still paying for the bubble tea. Deal?" The billionaire murmured, turning her gently away from the grave. As they walked back toward the waiting luxury convoy, Linyu took one last glance back at the lonely headstone. The gray mist seemed to lift just a fraction, the heavy, suffocating aura of the old timeline finally beginning to break. The real Zhu Linyu wasn't alone anymore. She had an army of chaos coming to finish her fight. The cornered beast is always the most vicious. With their offshore accounts frozen and the federal government breathing down their necks, the Lin Bai alliance decided to play their final desperate card on a chaotic Tuesday morning. Every major mainstream media outlet simultaneously ran a coordinated, breaking headline. Zhu Linyu charged with severe corporate espionage and mass identity theft. Director Bai and the Lin family had weaponized their remaining legal connections to launch a smear campaign, claiming that Linyu had fabricated all the evidence against them using illegal hacking and corporate espionage. They orchestrated a massive public arrest outside the municipal courthouse, flooding the plaza with hundreds of reporters, expecting the public to turn on the vicious villainess once and for all. But they had profoundly underestimated the terrifying power of an internet cult before Linyu's luxury car could even pull up to the courthouse steps. The internet cult at Linyu Fan went into absolute overdrive. At Linyu Fan, they are trying to take down our unhinged older sister. This is not a drill. The system cannot handle her chaotic purity. ALL units deploy. The tactical counterstrike that followed was an unprecedented wave of absolute, beautiful chaos when the police and the corrupt corporate executives arrived at the courthouse. They found the entire plaza completely blockaded. Leading the front line were dozens of fierce, aggressive market grandmothers, the very same grandmothers Linyu had accidentally helped by buying up their market stalls to protect them from developers, armed with wooden crates, heavy umbrellas, and literal heads of cabbage. The grandmothers formed an impenetrable human wall. "You touch our girl, you answer to us," one grandmother shrieked, violently hurling a high-grade organic turnip directly at Director Bai's expensive sedan. Simultaneously, The film studio crew led by the newly promoted executive producer Andy Chen leaked the fully unedited bathroom phone logs of the disgraced director Wang onto every video platform in the country. The audio of Lin Feng and director, by admitting to forging Lin Yu's signature and drugging her, played on a continuous loop across millions of screens nationwide. The final fatal blow to the conspiracy came from the most unexpected source. By Weiwei, the innocent, fragile heroine of the original web novel, stepped out of a vehicle flanked by Gu Mingzi's elite security detail. She didn't look like a captive angel anymore, she looked furious. She marched directly up to the bank of news microphones. "My parents are liars," Weiwei announced, her voice shaking but clear. "Zhu Linyu never pushed me. She never harassed me. I was forced into that engagement, and my family used me to systematically frame an innocent woman to steal her father's docs. Zhu Linyu is the only person who had the courage to break this sick system." The crowd erupted on the internet. Millions of netizens weaponized their keyboards, crashing the Lin Corporation servers. Within 45 minutes, Lin Yu finally stepped out of her car, wearing her favorite oversized gray hoodie and sweatpants. Calmly chewing on a strawberry-flavored fruit roll-up, she blinked at the riotous crowd, then looked at the trembling police officers holding the arrest warrant. "Look, boys," Lin Yu said, pointing a thumb back at the blockading grandmothers and the roaring crowd. "I'd love to go to jail and avoid doing my laundry today, but I don't think my fan club is going to let you put the cuffs on. Why don't we just arrest the bald guy over there instead?" She pointed directly at Director Bai, who was currently being aggressively pelted with standard-issue municipal cabbage. By 4 p.m., the federal prosecutor officially dismissed all charges against Lin Yu. By 5 p.m., Lin Feng, Director Bai, and 14 other high society executives were led away in handcuffs, utterly destroyed in a single afternoon by the pure, unmitigated wrath of thousands of people defending their favorite chaotic older sister. 3 months later, the dust had completely settled. The grand conspiracy was entirely dismantled. The corrupt executives were trading their tailored suits for prison jumpsuits, and the late original Zhu Linyu's name had been completely cleared. Her legacy restored as a tragic hero who had tried to expose the dark underbelly of the elite. The Zhu shipping enterprise was thriving under a new, entirely transparent board of directors who had strictly banned the use of Excel sheets in Lin Yu's presence to protect her mental sanity. A high-profile, deeply serious political reporter from national television sat in the opulent, sunlit glass sunroom of the Gu estate. He was conducting an exclusive, highly anticipated interview with Gu Mingzi, the undisputed king of the financial world. The camera focused on Mingzi, who looked effortlessly sharp in a tailored navy suit, calmly sipping an organic Earl Grey tea. "Mr. Gu," the reporter said, adjusting his glasses with intense journalistic gravitas. "Now that the dust has settled on the most massive corporate corruption scandal in the nation's history, the public is dying to know. What is it actually like living with the country's most unpredictable, chaotic heiress? How do you maintain structural stability in your life?" Mingzi set his teacup down on the saucer with a soft, elegant clink. He looked out the massive glass windows behind the reporter, his expression completely unfazed. "It's peaceful," Mingzi murmured, his dark eyes softening with a profound, quiet affection, a very deep, profound peace. The reporter blinked. "Peaceful, sir, yes. But, Mr. Gu," the reporter's voice cracked slightly as he pointed a trembling finger toward the floor-to-ceiling glass window behind them. "Behind you, Miss Zhu is currently sprinting across your pristine French manicured lawn in a silk bathrobe, violently wrestling a giant Canadian goose." The cameraman slowly panned the lens out the window. Sure enough, across the perfectly manicured, multi-million-dollar estate gardens, Zhu Linyu was in full battle mode. Her hair was completely wild, her bathrobe was flapping violently in the wind, and she was in a full-blown tactical pursuit of a massive, incredibly angry goose that was aggressively waddling away with one of her pink Gucci slippers clamped firmly in its beak. "Give it back, you corporate spy." Linyu's muffled screams echoed through the thick glass. "I know Director Bai sent you. I know your secrets." Mingzi took another calm, measured sip of his tea, not even turning his head to look at the unfolding animal kingdom violence behind him. "Ah," Mingzi said, his voice entirely smooth. "It's Thursday." The reporter stared at him, his professional composure completely shattering. Does that happen every Thursday, sir?" "No," Mingzi smiled, a rare, breathtakingly genuine expression of absolute happiness lighting up his handsome face. "Only when the goose starts it. Outside, Linyu executed a flawless, low-profile diving tackle onto the grass. The camera captured the ultimate triumphant payoff, Linyu rising from the dirt, entirely disheveled. Triumphantly shoving the pink Gucci slipper back onto her foot, she turned toward the glass sunroom, noticed the rolling television camera, and flashed a massive, unhinged peace sign while aggressively tucking the fiercely hissing goose under her right arm like F. O.O.T. ball. The video faded to black on her chaotic, beautiful laughter. For the first time in either of their lives, both the overworked soul of Shen Yao and the lonely, cold heart of Gu Ming's had found exactly what they never realized they wanted. Not a life of rigid, high-society perfection, and certainly not a life dictated by a trashy web novel plot, but a real, chaotic, unapologetic home where being wonderfully, beautifully yourself was more than enough to change the world. That's it for today's story. The Immoral Affairs Bureau reminds all transmigrators that becoming the internet's emotionally unstable older sister while accidentally fixing systemic corruption is a dire CT violation of villainous conduct regulations. CEO Gu's continued encouragement of this behavior has also been classified as aggravated green flag enabling. The Bureau would also like to clarify that he's just being nice should no longer be considered a legally defensible explanation after the third kiss. Please like and subscribe as required under Bureau compliance.